the Trump administration promised to release these files and then broke that promise. He had many run-ins with the mainstream media about this. Here's just one.
Lingering mysteries. One of the biggest ones is whether he ever worked for a American or foreign intelligence agency. The former labor secretary, who was Miami U.S. Attorney Alex Acosta, he allegedly said that he did work for an intelligence agency. So could you resolve whether or not he did? And also, could you say why there was a minute missing from the jailhouse tape on the night of the staff?
Yeah, sure. If
Could I just interrupt for 1 second? Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep? That is unbelievable.
This has had a major impact on the MAGA base, and it has been angered by this, and Trump has lost many prominent figures, including Candace Owens, who commented.
Seems to have been hiding these emails. They're not good. Okay? They are completely indefensible, but I already told you, I was done with MAGA at the moment he looked us in the face and he said, what files, right? What are we still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? Pam Bondi said it was a Democrat hoax. No, I think the entire nation has been hoaxed by Republicans and Democrats, and there are pervert elites that sit at the top.
Given if there is no dirt on Trump, why would he hide it then? Because in the emails, it was proven was that he had deep associations. Of course, we don't have proof that he took part necessarily in any of the activities beyond the fact that it seems like Virginia Giuffre was saying that she didn't want to run into Trump should Jeffrey Epstein not be there. So your assessment.
Yeah, so we know from news reporting that Epstein and Trump go all the way back. They've known each other ever since the 1980s, and they used to be best friends. Epstein was a frequent visitor to Mar-a-Lago, and they had a falling out because Trump believed that Epstein was stealing his workers to go work for himself. And so they had a falling out. And there's actually rumors that Trump was one of the informants that landed Epstein in trouble with the law in the first place. And this is back in the early 2000s. So Epstein and Trump had a falling out. Okay, so that's something that we know. That's number one. Number two is that it's, as you say, it's really interesting that Trump doesn't want to talk about Epstein. In fact, he's done a lot to suppress the Epstein files. So why would he do that? So, okay, now let's do a thought experiment. It's really important for us to do a thought experiment to understand what's going on. The year is, so we go back a year. Donald Trump has just won the presidency. And let's just assume what a second term would look like. We would think that in the business world, Elon Musk would be his main backer because Elon Musk gave $100 million to Trump's campaign, right? We would also expect that in the media, there would be three individuals that would be most supportive of Trump: Nick Fuentes, Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens. Okay, and we can also expect within the U.S. Congress, Trump would have some diehard supporters that would do whatever he wants. Okay, and the two that would come most readily to mind are MTG, Marjorie Taylor Greene, as well as Lauren Bobbitt. Why? Because during the first term, these two were the most diehard Trump MAGA supporters. Okay, so that's what we would expect. Now, what is the reality? The reality is that with Elon Musk, he had a falling out with Donald Trump. You know, he had a black eye, then he left the White House, and after he leaves the White House, he has this tweet, and he's basically like, Trump's in the Epstein files. Mark my words. Okay, that's kind of strange. Then you have Nick Fuentes, Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson turning against Trump, and in fact doing as much as possible to embarrass the Trump administration. Now you look at Congress. These Epstein files are being released because four Republican members of Congress have sided with the Democrats in voting for their release. Okay, and these four Republicans are Thomas Massie, Nancy Mace, and Marjorie Taylor Greene, and Lauren Bobbitt. In fact, what we know is that Penn Bondi had a very long meeting with Lauren Bobbitt trying to tell her, hey, man, don't switch sides. Don't vote for the release of these files. The president will be very angry at you, okay? So this is really weird. The people that we expect to most support Donald Trump in the second term have now turned against him. This makes no sense because what did Donald Trump do to piss these people off? So, and also, like, as I keep on saying, there's absolutely no blackmail on this guy, because a guy like Donald Trump, he has been breaking a law in his entire life and getting away with it. So he knows how to skirt the law. He knows how to not get in trouble with the law. And he knows how to be careful about someone like Jeffrey Epstein, who cannot keep his mouth shut, okay? So I don't think there's any dirt on this guy. I'd be very surprised if the Epstein files implicate Trump in any manner. I understand, yes, Trump is named a lot in these files. I understand that, yeah, Trump likes to be seen with underage girls. Like, I mean, he was in charge of these like Miss Teen USA pageants, okay? So there's nothing really surprising about these Epstein files. So the question is, why is this happening? And I have a theory, okay? And this theory can be completely idiotic, okay? But I propose this theory. It's all a show. It's a Trump show. It's all an illusion, okay? These Epstein files do not implicate Trump, but he wants to create a spectacle around the Epstein files. You know, he was part of the World Wrestling Federation for a long time. He had his own TV show, The Apprentice, for a long time. So he understands TV show plotting. He understands how to maximize an audience emotional reaction to a certain event. What he's doing is creating tension, right? He could release the Epstein files like many months ago, and we would go over the Epstein files and we'd be like, what is this crap? This tells us nothing that we don't already know. We know Bill Clinton, we know Bill Gates, we know Larry Summers, we know Jamie Dimon were all part of the Epstein circle, and they all visited Epstein Island. We know all this, right? So how do you create a visceral hatred for the Democrats and for the elite among the people? What you do is you create as much tension as possible by making this Epstein files as seemingly secretive as possible. But not only that, but you create a situation in which the people are begging for the Epstein files, so that when new information comes out, they become more and more agitated. They become more and more violent. That's what we're seeing today, okay? So remember what's happening. Remember what's happening is that while the House Oversight Committee, the Democrats, are releasing more and more files, with Trump being implicated, Trump has announced that they will launch an investigation of Bill Clinton and his ties with Epstein. And before, people would be like, this is partisan. Trump is clearly going after Democrats. But now people are like, oh, well, this makes sense because we want more information released about Epstein. Release all the files, okay? So this is all theater. This is all an illusion. Trump is not implicated in the Epstein files, but Bill Clinton, Bill Gates, Larry Summers, Jamie Dimon, the main leaders of the Democratic Party in many ways, and it's possible that eventually John Podesta will be implicated as well. Okay, we're seeing Trump slowly use lawfare to go after his Democratic enemies. And it's quite honestly, it's entirely possible that one day Trump will use lawfare against Obama as well. So I know this sounds strange. I know it sounds like conspiracy theory, but just look at the facts before you.
You know, I think a lot of people are seeing a smoking gun on a lot of these emails, given that Jeffrey Epstein was hanging out with him during his presidency, was in the Trump Tower. So many things have been revealed about their relationship. But at the same time, it's a very limited release. So we don't necessarily know everything, and we don't know how far this goes. But we do know that Donald Trump was in the Situation Room right after this, trying to discipline his colleagues like Lauren Boebert, who is a representative in Congress. They're voting on releasing these files. And it seems like the Trump administration was trying to discipline her to not go along with this, and she ended up rescinding. So would you say that this is all theater? Because it does look like we are being taken down this road of these files are in the conversation. The problem for Donald Trump is that it actually is hurting him quite badly in terms of his own base. You said Candace Owens, Nick Fuentes, these folks are going against him now, and a lot of the reasons because of this, because he didn't fulfill this promise to release the files.
Look, it's all tension and release. It's all theater, right? Because you look at World Wrestling Federation, okay? People love those who they hate, and people love redemption story, okay? So Trump, he's got 36% approval ratings, and his base has turned against him, and Tucker Carlson, Nick Fuentes, Dave Smith, all talking trash about him. But so what? What does it matter? What matters is in 2028, that election, that's what matters, because Trump has the intention of running for a third term. That's the key. Okay. Also, what's key is that we can expect more political violence in America over the next few years. The sort of political consensus it's broken down. There's this major infighting among the elite that these Epstein files are revealing to us. So Trump needs a street army on his side. And what he's doing is that he's messaging to the MAGA. Listen, the real enemy is the elite. The elite has me cornered. Okay, the elite has blackmail on me, and that's why I'm begging for help. Like there's nothing I can do. If Netanyahu wants me to go bomb Iran, I can't do anything about it. If the deep state wants me to go bomb Venezuela, I can't do anything about it. I'm being held hostage. Save me, okay? That's slowly the message being sent to his base, okay? And I know this sounds weird, but what we need to understand is that, look, watch a football game or watch a basketball game. These athletes are superstars. They're able to do things that are unimaginable to us. These politicians, Donald Trump, MTG, Thomas Massey, they're able to have a sixth sense of political winds, of how America, the mood in America is developing, and how to best manipulate it through nuance. Okay, they're able to ride that wave. So again, I know this sounds crazy, but let's see how things play out over the next few months.
This is a moment right now, and it looks really bad. There's elites pulling strings for real policy, which I think we can get to now what isn't being talked about, and that is the role of Israel. Caitlin Johnstone, great journalist, pulled up a bunch of headlines, stories that have been coming out in recent weeks, many of them from Drop Site News. Israeli spies stay for weeks at a time with Jeffrey Epstein in Manhattan. Leaked emails show Epstein working on a wire transfer to Ehud Barak's top aide, Yoni Koren, who regularly stayed at his apartment. Jeffrey Epstein helped broker Israeli security agreement with Mongolia. Jeffrey Epstein and the Mossad, how he helped Israel build a back channel to Russia amid Syria's war, although there was no real back channel that was proven to be, but there was talks about it. Jeffrey Epstein helped Israel sell a surveillance state to Cote d'Ivoire. This is what isn't being talked about. Help us understand then the role of Israel in all of this. What is the true power dynamic, the true power relationship? Why is it turning out like this? And why are these Epstein files so important to understanding all of this?
So Israel is a very complicated issue. And again, I'm going to go on a limb and give everyone a controversial take. The Jewish identity, the Jewish people, is a creation of empire. It's a construct of empire. So I know this. So let me slowly explain what's going on, and please be patient, okay? So the Jewish people, the term Jews came from the Persian Empire. And I would argue that Israel is a construct of the Persian Empire. Okay, so I know that in the Bible, the Bible says that the Jews come from Abraham, who lived like 4,000 years ago. But if you just look at the real history, Israel was a creation of the Persian Empire. Why? Well, because if you look at a map, at that time in history, the Middle East was the wealthiest part of the world. You had Anatolia, you had Egypt, you had Mesopotamia, you had the Mediterranean and the Aegean. And the center of this world was the Levant. So whoever controlled the Levant controlled the world. Cyrus the Great, he had just conquered Babylon, and he discovered that there were these captives from the former state of Judah. These are the proto-Jews. And the policy for the Persians is divide and rule. Okay, so to create as much these instability in a border area as much as possible as to maintain control, right? Because if the region is unstable, the empire has reason to exert control, but also much more importantly, you prevent another power from arising within your borderlands. So at this time in history, this would be up the year 500 Common Era. Judah and Samaria were pretty peaceful places. There were Jews, Israelites, who had converted into the local polytheistic religion. At this time in history, most people in that area was polytheistic, and people got along really well. They intermarried together, and then along comes this guy Ezra, okay, and he's the governor who is sent by Persia in order to recreate the Jewish identity, okay, and he immediately proclaims that if you're a Jewish man and you want to still be Jewish, you must divorce your wife if you marry into a different religion, okay? And this creates a lot of conflict. This creates a lot of instability. Ezra is the one who gives us the modern day Bible because he needs to construct this Israel identity. Now, why is this important? This is important because this is the same trick. This is the same strategy that the British will use when they become an empire. Okay, so at this time in history, they are since 1700, 1800. Jerusalem, the Levant, is being controlled by the Ottoman Empire. Okay, so the Ottoman Empire is a great geopolitical rival to the British. So how do you destabilize the Ottoman Empire? Well, you promote Zionism. Okay, you promote the idea that this land is the promised land that God promised to Abraham, and therefore the Jews have a right to it. And at first, this idea wasn't very popular, but then starting about 100 years ago, with the publication of Theodor Herzl's book, Fatherland, in German, calling for the creation of a Zionist state, then it started to gain more and more traction. Okay, so this is what we have to remember. Israel is a construct of empire in order to destabilize the region. And Israel has been doing a great job of that. Before the arrival of Israel, before the Zionist project, Jews in the Middle East got along really well with Muslims. In fact, throughout history, it's the Christians that were mainly to blame for the persecution of Jews. The Muslims have always been protective of Jews. So in 1492, when the Spaniards expelled the Jews, it was the Ottoman Empire that took them in. The Jews, climbed to positions of power and authority within the Islamic Caliphate. They've always been well respected. Going back to the 1950s and the 1940s, the Jews were welcome in Baghdad. They were welcome in Tehran. They were welcome throughout the Middle East. But the Zionist project is being fueled by anti-Semitism, and they need manpower. So the Zionists were conducting all these terrorist attacks in Baghdad. The Jews no longer felt safe in Baghdad, so they start to immigrate to Israel. So that's something that we have to keep in mind, that Israel is the pit bull of empire. It's a construct of empire in order to destabilize the Middle East, and that's what Israel is today. America is using Israel in order to destabilize the Middle East, in order to maintain control over the oil resources, the trade routes, Jerusalem, which is the holy city for the three major Abrahamic religions. So that's why we keep on hearing about Israel.
Jeffrey Epstein has long been considered an Israeli intelligence asset of some kind. I'm curious on where that factors into all of this, given his extensive involvement with some of the most important people, most powerful people, dictating U.S. foreign policy, dictating empire, and of course, using channels like Israeli intelligence.
Look, Jeffrey Epstein was definitely Mossad operative, but he was definitely a CIA operative, and he could have been an operative for the Russians, for the British. Okay, so the way that these spies work is that they're all double agents, triple agents, and that's why they're so effective, because they're able to be a nexus of different power elites. So definitely Jeffrey Epstein was a Mossad operative, but did he have loyalties to Israel? Maybe, maybe not. Was he good friends with Israel? Absolutely. But people like Jeffrey Epstein, they're all psychopaths. They're first and foremost loyal to themselves, and they use their power, they use their connections in order to amass more and more personal power to themselves. Look, the reality is that America is turning against Israel, and there's no stopping this. And I think one thing that we'll see over the next few years is a surge in anti-Zionist settlement in America. And this Jeffrey Epstein will be a catalyst for that. And you know what? The American people are absolutely right in that their foreign policy should not be held hostage. Their foreign policy should not be dictated by any foreign nation. It makes absolutely no sense that AIPAC is not registered as a foreign agent in America. So I think that one thing that Donald Trump will do in the next couple of years, possibly sooner, is that he will ask for AIPAC to be registered as a foreign agent. And this will create a firestorm in American politics that we've never seen before.
As all of this drama around, we have MAGA splits, Candace Owens, these types moving away from Donald Trump around Epstein. As the emails came out, U.S. President Donald Trump begged for a pardon for Benjamin Netanyahu. He pardoned a major billionaire, a former Spurs owner, British billionaire who, was involved in insider trading. How do you think all of this factors into what's going on here in the current atmosphere? Is the U.S., you called the U.S. Or America anti-civilization? Is this anti-civilization going up in smoke?
The American empire is definitely in decline. So let me respond to this Trump-Netanyahu relationship. So what happened was that after the Gaza ceasefire, Trump flew to Israel and gave a speech in the Knesset, and he singled out two individuals. The first is Benjamin Netanyahu, and the second is Miriam Adelson. And what he said is that, hey guys, we should give Benjamin Netanyahu a pardon, man. And then Netanyahu got to send in an ovation. You look at Netanyahu's face at that moment, he was mortified, because what Trump was implying is that Netanyahu is starting all these wars around the Middle East in order to not go to prison. Okay, so Trump made a point of embarrassing Netanyahu in the Knesset in front of the entire Israeli people. Okay, then he also singled out Miriam Adelson. He told a story of how he once had a conversation with Miriam Adelson, and he asked her, "Do you love America or do you love Israel more?" And Miriam Adelson would not answer. And Trump said to the Knesset, again, in front of the entire nation, in front of these live cameras, he said, "Oh, well, this tells us that Miriam Adelson loves Israel more." Okay, so he's basically saying that Miriam Adelson is a traitor to America. This is not complimentary. Trump is basically trolling his biggest supporter, Miriam Adelson, as well as Netanyahu, so I mean, if you are just watching what's happening, you don't think that Netanyahu and Trump are friends. In fact, you think that they absolutely hate each other. So it's a very complicated relationship. And so what's really going on, I think, is that you have a decline of empire. As you say, and when an empire declines, what often happens is the elites attack each other. Okay, so Peter Turchin has a theory called elite overproduction, and this is what explains the decline of empires. That you have too many people who want these too few positions of elite status in which they can extract rent from everyone else. So another way of saying this is that everything that Trump is doing is ultimately to target the deep state, to reveal who they are, okay? To reveal who they are, what they want, and how they work, so that the American people can rise up and overthrow the deep state. Now, maybe this is all just conspiracy, but if we understood in this way that Israel is a pet project of the existing deep state, and Trump wants to overthrow the deep state, so he wants to create all these problems for Israel, that can help us understand a lot of what's going on. Because remember, the people who are most attacking Israel in the media, Nick Fuentes, Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, they used to be adamant Trump supporters. So why did they have a falling out? Also remember that Candace Owens is blowing up on the internet because of Charlie Kirk, right? And what she's implying is that Israel was responsible for the Charlie Kirk assassination because Charlie Kirk didn't want Trump to bomb Iran. Okay, that's what she's implying. So a lot of sentiment is turning against Israel. Also remember that what's happening right now is that Larry Ellison has bought TikTok, which was for the longest time one of those weird platforms in which you can criticize the genocide in Gaza. His son has bought CBS, Viacom, and installed Barry Weiss, a very well-known Zionist, as editor-in-chief of CBS News. Okay, so this does not seem like Israel is gaining power in America. It seems more like desperation. It seems like more like they're being revealed, they're being attacked, and they feel as though they have no choice but to defend themselves. So it's almost like a fight or flight mentality. So we are seeing, I think, the end of Zionism in America. I really think that these next 2 to 3 years, there'll be a concerted attack against Zionism in America, which implicates the deep state, okay? Because the deep state is, first and foremost, a Zionist organization. The deep state and Zionism are almost intermarried with each other. So if you attack Zionism, you're also attacking the deep state as well. So I think that's what's happening.
Would you say then, based on your take here, that people like Candace Owens, for example, their opposition to Trump, which they say is because of Epstein and also because of Trump's inability to stop the genocide of Palestinians in Gaza, would you say that those reasons that people like her, Tucker Carlson, have given are disingenuous? Like it's not the stated reason, that there really isn't a reason why they should be breaking from Trump?
Yeah, I think, look, the Epstein emails tell us that journalists are political operatives, right? So if you look at Michael Wolff, you look at Thomas Landon of New York Times, they were basically acting like political strategists for Epstein. Okay, so, for someone like Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, Nick Fuentes, to reach the level of fame and power that they have in America, they need to be able to read the political winds properly. Okay, so I'm not saying that Donald Trump and Candace Owens talk on the phone and discuss strategy. They don't do that. But Candace Owens has a read on Donald Trump. He has a read on his intentions. She reads the political winds in America. She knows where the MAGA base is going. And she positions herself in a position that allows her to speak the truth in a way that is also political advantage to her. And that's why they're so successful, because they're able to have a sixth sense of where the political winds are shifting and how to best position yourself in a certain place that allows the wind to ride you to success.